you may wish to add a few, just a kind of summarized version of your resume. And then thereafter take questions from the distinguished senators. The floor is yours.
Your Excellency, Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, my name is Nasir Ahmad El-Rufai. I am standing before you as a result of being nominated to be a minister of the government of the Federation. I was born about 63 years ago in Daudawa, a village in Katsina State. And I attended primary school in Daudawa and Kao, Kaduna. Then went to Barewa College between 1972 and 1976. Completed the West African School Certificate and went to Ahmadu Bello University, where I graduated in 1980 with a degree in quantity surveying. 2 years later, I went back to school to get a master's in business administration from the same university, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. And a year later, completed a postgraduate diploma in computer science. Subsequently, in years ahead, I got a law degree from the University of London and NLB from University of London, a master's in public administration from Harvard University Kennedy School of Government. I started my business as a consulting quantity surveyor in 1981 after completing my youth service in Ogun State, and I served in Abeokuta with a company called George Wimpy Nigeria Limited, then building the Oyan River Dam. I worked for a few months, the construction company building the ABU Teaching Hospital before establishing the quantity surveying consulting firm, El-Rufai and Partners. The firm still exists. It's one of the largest quantity surveying firms in the country. It's being run by my partners. I left the firm since 1998 when I was asked by General Abdulsalam Abubakar to be one of his policy advisors after the death of General Sani Abacha. During the handover to President-elect Obasanjo, the President-elect promised me that he would want to invite me to work with him when he takes over, and he did. I was appointed the Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, where I was tasked to kickstart the federal government privatization program, which had been suspended since 1993. During that period, for the next 4 years from 1999, I was in charge of the program. And it was during this period that we privatized most of the banks, commercial banks, cement, sugar companies, vehicle assembly plants. And we also designed and steered the reforms in key sectors like telecommunications, which turned out to be quite successful. We also started reforms in the electricity supply industry and oil and gas. In fact, the first draft of what turned out to be the Petroleum Industry Act was drafted by the BPE when I was in charge. Some of the distinguished senators here were either in the House of Representatives or in the executive branch, like distinguished Senator Goje, who was Minister of State for Power. We all worked together to steer these reforms ahead. I was then appointed Minister of the Federal Capital Territory after confirmation by the Senate. So this is the second time I'm coming back to these distinguished chambers. The first time was 20 years ago, in 2003, when I was confirmed and appointed Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. I administered Abuja for 4 years, and thereafter I went back to school. That's when I acquired my law degree and my MPA from Kennedy School of Government. I came back to Nigeria after a short period of exile in May 2010 and joined the CPC under the leadership of General Muhammadu Buhari. Eventually, the CPC, of course, merged with other parties to form the APC. And I'm proud to say that I'm one of the founding members of the APC. I'm one of the 37 first set of officers that signed and filled the INEC form that got the All Progressive Congress registered. And I've remained a member since then. In 2015, I was elected the governor of Kaduna State and re-elected in 2019. Your Excellencies, this is a short summary of my life, my education experience, private sector and public service career. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Yari. Oh, okay. After you, then the Senator for Kaduna, 3 of them.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Abdulaziz Abubakar Yari, I represent good people of Zamfara West. Mr. President of the Senate, I'm from Zamfara State. My distinguished colleagues, nominee, I have just 3 questions. Number 1, if you are confirmed by the Senate and eventually Mr. President see you deem fit to assign you in the energy sector of power, understanding the serious situation of our energy situation and the power situation in Nigeria, what do you intend to do to improve the generation and distribution line? Sometime in 2016-17, federal government planned to increase generation to 7,000. So our situation, even if we have 7,000 megawatts, we don't have a distribution line to carry it all over Nigeria. 7,000. So if you are, Mr. President give you a portfolio in the power sector, what do you intend to do to balance between what we are going to have as increment towards the reserve knowledge in the issue of generation and distribution? That's number 1. Number 2, you and I, we have the same opinion when we are there. And I believe you know what I'm talking about. That on the issue of privatization of discourse, we have some opinion. If you get there, how do you want to intervene between the receipts, the outflow and inflow of generation and the book balances in the issue of payment? Because we are a kind of in double jeopardy. At any point in time, we are out of subsidy of oil. But I'm happy that I had sometime in January or February this year, the federal government back out in the issue of paying subsidy to energy. So how do you intend to balance that? Because the generation, when it's sent to disco, the generation don't lose their money in any way. They go straight to get their funds from the guarantee given by the federal government, instead of guarantee given by the discourse. That's number two. The last one, Mr. President, the nominee is still on the discourse. We knew that the global practice, water, power is not a social kind of program given just for free. But in Nigeria, reverse is the case. We are looking at it as a social services, which is not. So this discourse in place, where I and you in those days, we have done a lot of work as a part of our responsibility in governance to improve the supply. But for them to take even a clerk who will be collecting funds for them to remit back to the generation, they are not doing it. And we know it can go on ultimatum that no need for any other person. As we're doing our phone, we're taking our phone in the house, you meet about 6 people with the telephone site, a minimum of at least 5,000, 6,000 per set. And also we recharge every week at least 300, 1,000. So if we put the whole family, that they're having their meters, what do you intend to impose this discourse to put automatic a kind of a plan whereby your own people, public of Nigeria, will be shortchanged on giving established bills instead of going pay as you earn. You get the service, you pay. As we are paying our phone, we pay service and we get access to service. So what do you intend to do on this? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Khalil.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ibrahim Khalid. I represent Kaduna North. I am from Kaduna State. Let me start by congratulating the nominee for his nomination as a Minister of the Federal Republic. I wish to further inform this Senate that the resolve of the 3 senators from Kaduna State, in consultation with the people of Kaduna State from across the political divide, have resolved and agreed that we should support the nomination of this very important nominee. Furthermore, the nominee is from Kaduna State, an bona fide indigenous of Kaduna State. Secondly, he appeared before these hallowed chambers sometimes in 2003, and he was screened and cleared. And precisely, he is a person that is well known nationally and internationally. He has the capacity to continue with the good deed he's been doing while he was a minister. In this regard, I want to urge the Senate to consider this, and also, based on the established precedents that was established yesterday, in respect of his colleagues, the 2 governors who came and appeared before us. Nobody asked them questions. Because of their pedigree, they were asked to take a bow and go. I urge the Senate, even with the questions that was asked, that the Senate do ask the nominee to take a bow and go. We know him, we know he's capable. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Karimi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Karimi Sunday. I represent Kogi West. My Excellency, Governor Nasir El-Rufai, your performance in any office you find yourself in this country has been outstanding. In BPE, your record is there. In FCT as a minister, your record is there. And as two-time governor of Kaduna State, you did well. But I have a very strong petition against you that borders on security, unity, and cohesiveness of Nigerian nation. And I think that petition has to be considered along in this screening exercise.
Senator Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East Senatorial District. Everybody here will attest to the credibility of the nominee when it comes to performance in every assignment he has undertaken for this country. And he is not different from any other one that have also performed in other places. There were two governors that have been here for screening, and there was a precedent. And that precedent, as a convention in chambers like this, must be sustained. And as such, I want to propose that Nasir El-Rufai should take his bow and go. And then all other things can be determined when we come to the confirmation stage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Danjuma Goji. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. As said by previous speakers, Nasir El-Rufai is well known to all of us, Nigerians, and in fact, to the international community. And as agreed by all of us, he has done very well in all the offices occupied, from DG BPE to FCT Minister and two-time Governor of Kaduna State. I had a question before, but given the President said by this Senate yesterday regarding the two other governors who were asked to take a bow and go, I want to join my colleagues to insist and to request that he should take a bow and go. Let me say. Yeah? Take a bow. I just submit.
Thank you very much. Order, please. I think we have gotten enough questions. We'll avail him the opportunity to respond. When he responds, then we can allow you to go back and go. Yes. And Karimi, you came forward with, I don't know whether you follow the normal something, but well, order, please. Order, please. Whatever is the case, this is an opportunity for nominees to explain, to showcase themselves. Then later we'll come to the confirmation approval. So, Mr. Nominee, you can please answer the questions so that and then you bow and go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Senate President. I want to first thank the distinguished senators for the very warm remarks made on my person and on my public service record. I want to convey my gratitude to the Senate for this recognition. My brother, the distinguished senator from Zamfara State and our former chairman of the Governors Forum, asked 3 questions, all centered around the electricity supply industry. I will take them together because they are all connected. My brother asked about how do we ramp up generation and distribution. What do we do about the privatized discourse and the issues of subsidies and illiquidity around them, and the various guarantees that have so far costed the government more than 1.6 trillion after privatization. Your Excellencies, the electricity supply situation in Nigeria has defied every government for 60 years. It has defied every president. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is committed to ensuring that Nigeria has stable and reliable electricity supply. Because without electricity, industrialization is a pipe dream. Without electricity, even agriculture today is not a viable proposition. So he's committed to that, and he has asked me to work with him to address these problems. And I will do my best to do so. Your Excellencies, right now Nigeria has about 13,000 megawatts of installed generation capacity, but we hardly do more than 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts. So to improve generation, the first order of business is to look at what is constraining the full production of electricity from these 13,000 megawatts. Why do we have 13,000 installed and only 4,000 or 5,000 being produced? Many of the generation stations cannot produce because of poor supply of gas. 80% of our generation is from gas, and the balance is hydro. The gas-fired stations often don't have supply of gas. There are power stations that have been completed 2 or 3 years ago, and they have produced nothing because there is no gas supply. So that's another thing that must be addressed. We must ensure that gas and power are together under one roof for this issue of gas supply, which has persisted for over 20 years, to be resolved. But Your Excellency, even if we are able to generate 13,000 megawatts today, our transmission infrastructure can only do 5,000, maybe 6,000 at best. So the second major constraint in electricity supply in Nigeria is the transmission infrastructure. We need to close the loop in our transmission system so that the 13 system collapses we had in 2022 are not repeated again in our history. And this can be done. There is money to expand the transmission infrastructure. We just need to organize ourselves, remove politics from transmission procurement, and focus on improving our transmission infrastructure. The third problem is distribution. In 2013, we privatized our distribution companies, 11 of them, 60% to the private sector, 40% to be held by government. The idea is that the 40% is supposed to be listed on the stock exchange so that every Nigerian will be a shareholder in these companies. But that has not happened. 10 years after privatization, the government is still, in one way or the other, subsidizing electricity. As I said, the last time we checked, it was about 1.6 trillion in a privatized environment. This is unsustainable and unacceptable. But what do we do with the distribution companies? They have been privatized. About 5 or 6 of them are under receivership because those that bought the companies borrowed from banks and have not been paying the banks. So the banks have taken over 5 or 6 of them. And the last time we did a stress test on the distribution companies, only about 3 of them out of 11 are doing well. So there is a lot of work to be done regarding distribution, because distribution is the last end of the electricity supply chain. If it does not work, if they don't collect money, if they don't have enough metering, then they will not be able to pay for power supplied by the generation companies. And when they are unable to pay, the gap is what the government now pays. Otherwise, they will invoke the partial risk guarantee posted by the federal government of Nigeria. So this is a major problem and has to be addressed. But in the short term, the liquidity situation in the electricity supply industry has to be looked at. Tariffs must be cost reflective, and even the ownership of these distribution companies may have to change, because right now the banks own about 6 of them. They control 60% of the shares, and banks are not good at running companies. They are good at taking out whatever they need to recover their loan. So we intend, if given the opportunity, to sit and work out a system in which perhaps we'll be able to attract fresh capital, fresh new investors with technical and financial capacity into the distribution chain so that it can be expanded. The opportunity to do so exists because 6, as I said, out of the 11 are in receivership. 3 are doing okay. The others are 50-50, but a holistic approach is needed. And Your Excellencies, this is a problem that requires the support of everyone. It's not just Mr. President who will lead from the front, but also the National Assembly. Certain amendments to the Electricity Act 2023 may be needed. Certain amendments to the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 may be needed to bring this sector to align so that we provide Nigerians stable and reliable electricity. The President's vision is that within 7 years, we will not have power outages in this country. The President is saddened by the fact that countries like Benin Republic, Cameroon, Niger, our neighbors that are smaller countries,